Record. Okay, so we want to start with our intention as usual to our empathy circle, which is to build a culture of empathy. And we have okay, thumbs up though. Thumbs up. We're gonna just get started. Okay, so we got light our candle to hold our intention. Make sure you have that on the camera. And so it's getting a little bit late start, but that's fine. We'll next just do our mindfulness, self-connection. So let's just take a minute dealing with all these different issues. There's a lot of balls in the air, so good to just self-connect, a little mindfulness for, we'll just take a minute and a half for that. And feel into our body's sensations. Take some deep breaths, maybe, and feel the air going into your lungs. Feel your body and sitting in your chair, touching different parts of the chair, feet on the floor, feeling the floor, just noticing the sensations in your body. Then taking a few deep breaths and coming back to the circle, the group, and going into our check-in. Goran, how's everyone doing? Anything you want to check in about? What's alive in you in the moment? And I can start. And I'm feeling pretty good. I really enjoyed our discussion with Ingrid before the meeting. We're meeting a little bit beforehand, and we're talking about developing the empathy circle explanation, little video, and just kind of enjoying the conversation. And just feel good about the training. It's it's progressing step by step, and I'm kind of excited about that. So how do I feel? Yeah. Yeah. There's a sound to it. Yeah. That's it. So, whoever wants to go next? Oh, we're not hearing you. I didn't know your microphone. It's not on.
Oh?
Oh, no, I hear you. Now I hear you.
Yes.
No, oh.
Okay. So, you hear me, right?
Yeah, now I hear you.
Okay, great. So, I just feel very happy that today we're going to talk about some cultural differences and regarding empathy. I mean, this is what we had to prepare for today. And I'm just also very happy because I completed the 2 papers I had for my master. So yes, that's a very good feeling. I didn't want to have them in my way. And also this weekend I had the chance to develop my reflective essay, which was on how Twitter can develop empathy. So that was it was very good for me that I had to go back to my lesson plans and just reflect on the micro teaching session I had a few weeks ago at university. So my mood now, I could say there's like a very calm line, just kind of straight line, not dead, but very calm. Yes, this. Thank you. Yes, this is what I feel.
That's what I feel too. It's the calm. I feel it's kind of the same, and it is. That's because we usually think of you being dead when it's straight. Isn't that
Yes.
interesting? And yet it also symbolizes calmness, I guess. When Edwin mentioned earlier that some of the groups are talking about in their empathy circles kind of like personal stuff too. And see, with us being videotaped, I would never do that because I'd be scared of it. It'd be on the website
forever.
Do you guys hear me? I'm joining you guys, I think.
We hear you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
What kind of personal things? I mean, how personal are these personal? I mean, how they spend a day, or what is their relation with their husband? How personal?
Relation with their husband and their mothers-in-law.
Yes, then I could agree with Ingrid. Oh, so personal. Okay.
I guess you could take the recording. You could stop the video recording if someone wanted to do that.
We could.
Yeah.
I would like to ask something.
Okay.
Sorry, Ingrid. Have you completed? I want to say something after you make your point.
What did you? Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to ask Edwin why people feel the need to share with others so personal details. Are they looking for
maybe we could bring that up in the empathy circle part of it. So I want to be sure we get here, Stefan. Just check in. How are you doing? What's your emotion?
I'm frazzled. It's been an incredibly busy day, and as you know, unfortunately, I discovered that my Mac has only 7%, and the work computer has the audio and video blocked, and so I'm now coming to you via my iPhone. So apologies for any technical difficulties, but I'm frazzled, and I'm sorry that I missed your opening intention, centering experience.
Okay, what does frazzled look like?
Something like that. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Alrighty, then usually we go into our on arrival question, which we haven't done, so we'll skip that. And I didn't want to go into, before we go into our empathic listening, and do a quick check-in about projects. So I'm not sure, Stefan, if you'll be able to see this. But I'll read it. So one of the things we want to do is have everyone take on some sort of a project that they'd like to work on. So in the other teams, we had the project of design an exercise for the toolkit. And we have Andrea from the Saturday team. She's going to work on designing a template that all the different activities can use. So she's an educator working on her PhD in actually empathy and history. And so anyway, she's working on that. Another project, so anyone can design an activity for the toolkit. We have, maybe 30 different activities in there so far, and we want to create a standardized framework for the toolkit. So every activity has, the name of the activity, how long it takes, the supplies needed, feedback, and so forth. And so you can select one of the activities, which is also like a try it. You could take one of those and use the template or flesh out the template for it as a project. You can design a lesson, which is like a 2-hour lesson, which would be which is made up of different activities. So if you have one that you'd like to do, for example, Deb is working on one on body and mind, body, mind, heart activity. I'm not quite sure what that is, but that.
So this lesson is not tied to a chapter, or what?
Yeah, the lesson is not tied to a chapter. It can be. You can take a chapter and you can sort of flesh it out. Or you can just design a whole one. We have a sort of a lessons to sort folder. So, this training is an online MOOC that's kind of for ongoing. We have our sort of introductory lesson, but I see it as like it can be a year-long, course that people can take or have multiple lessons. So you can create those lessons that can be standalone, and eventually we'll kind of integrate it into, into some other courses.
Well, but I have a thought about this.
Okay.
Having spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars with multiple different organizations which have decided to create a certification process for their particular training. Mm-hmm. If we go that route, and I think it is well within the reason to consider this, we should, try to define the various levels. And right now you're talking very diffusely about many different types of lessons and things, but I think we should try to standardize it, limit it to a certain amount for different levels of competency. Mm-hmm. So for example, if you want to become a teacher in MBSR, there are different levels of now this is just my idea. I don't know what you're thinking about this, Edwin, but that would be an idea that I have about this.
Okay, so what I'm hearing there is that I think in terms of certification, we can create a certification process. You've done a lot of these, so you have a lot of experience with how these organizations have created certifications. What they do is they create different levels and that they build on each other, and that we could do the same thing, have these levels of and a certification. Is that accurate?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so the idea here is we have sort of a pool where activities kind of get thrown into, and then they can be pulled out to create like a certification. So there's like a grab bag of lessons, but that comes in with the next step, which is after this is design a prototype. So test the 4-lesson, 4-week introductory course, for example. So we can create sort of a pool of these lessons and then start building those different levels like you're talking about. But we have sort of a pool of those activities that you can pull from.
Now, a question, Edwin. You are far more technologically savvy than me, and you have already created this culture of empathy, website and such. And I don't know what your plan was, but I mean, if you wanted, I in my thought processes at least, if you wanted to really, maybe expand your audience. using a platform like either EDX or Coursera or FutureLearn, one of these, or could be potentially is a suggestion of a way to maybe connect with more participants, more audience.
Mhm.
What was your thoughts about that?
Yeah, we have a group that was actually looking. A couple of people were putting together a resource page on the different platforms like that. And we're kind of analyzing them and looking at what, like edX, I think edX or ed, yeah. And so we've been gathering material, and what we decided to do is just start with the prototype of a Google Sites, like what we're using now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like right now we have the Google Sites, but that's really for the designers, right?
Yes, that's right.
It's not a trainee facing site. It's more where we do all of our messy design and material. So we're creating a separate Google site that is just the training itself. It's like just streamlined for the training.
Yeah.
And so as a prototype, and then once we have something there, we can see about if we want to convert it to one of these other platforms, because some of the platforms, they cost money, and then what's the budget, and it's a lot of, but we can quickly create our first prototypes and be just having it on Google Sites. And so we've got sort of a grab bag of activities, we've got a grab bag of lessons, but we also have the kind of the lessons in sort of levels like you're talking about, right? So we have different people working on some lessons like that they've presented, like Susan Partnow. She's from the Compassionate Listening Project, and her group has been teaching this stuff for like 15, 20 years, but more. Wow. But they're using, if you look up Compassionate Listening Project, you can see it. So she actually put together a 3-lesson training, and we actually, on the time slot for Team 1, she actually presented it. So we have a recording of it, and you can go there and you can actually see the 3 lessons. And hers is a very structured, very facilitator-led sort of a process. But we have all the material, we have the slide deck. Then there's Celia, who's working on a 6-week introductory training. And she's been doing, for 20 years, Gordon training, the Thomas Gordon training. And the Thomas Gordon training is what, Bill Miller was referencing in a lot of his models. And like
Thomas Gordon, you said? Thomas Gordon, yeah.
Thomas Gordon. So she has a lot of experience in that, and she's kind of working on some prototype lessons. So you can, if you want to put together like a lesson, so we're going to have like a grab bag of activities, a grab bag of lessons, having some of those lessons put together in different, and then sort of be, testing this stuff out to move towards creating, more of a final, introductory course. And so that, I don't know if that's kind of like the model I'm looking at right now. If you have better ideas, I'm certainly. Oh, and actually the group on Saturday, there's 2 people there who have been doing the motivational interviewing training already. They're like friends of Bill Miller's, and so they're actually going to be facilitating some of the next classes. And so, we're kind of testing different approaches, documenting them, and then hopefully it'll start, it's just sort of emergent, and then it'll kind of start taking shape, I think.
Well, I guess my thought is, I mean, your real diamond here that is unique and serves a unique niche is nobody has an organization or a group that is has put together a nicely packaged certification of cognitive empathy. Those other things are interesting, but they're sidebars, like them teaching about MI and things. I mean, people have already done that. That's been done. There's millions of different websites and different ways to become certified, but no one had. I mean, if you wanted to really, there's still an opportunity for you, Edwin, to really be the leader in developing both for a therapeutic kind of in the healthcare arena to develop a cognitive empathy training, but it's not only wouldn't only be for that. I mean, it could be for non-professionals as well in other industries. The emphasis would be slightly different, but then so that's my thoughts.
Yeah, well, that's yeah. I'm very eclectic, so I kind of reach out to all the different, the NVC, the MI, the Thomas Gordon, the human-centered design. So I'm looking at how do we integrate these in a coherent that's very widely accessible, because this empathic listening part is the first step to all these different processes. Motivational interviewing, it starts with learning how to do. NVC is really an empathy building process. Human-centered design starts with.
So, but no one heretofore has put together. So there's a psychiatrist, a psychoanalyst at Austin Riggs named Eric Plankin, who has this theory called the why model of psychotherapy. And the why, at the base of the why, is what are called the common factors. We talked about this in psychotherapy, and that includes developing a therapeutic alliance, and that is established by using cognitive empathy and empathy skills. And so no one has put together really this. I mean, yes, you're right. So MI, MBSR, psychodynamic psychotherapy, CBT, any of these various approaches need there to be a sense of trust and an alliance formed between two or more people, and that is the crux, and that's really where you offer something unique, because even people who take MI or people who take these other trainings, nobody ever really spends the time developing these very critical, basic competencies in empathy, and very shortly. I mean, certainly within the healthcare arena, it hasn't even been touched. But they're going to add to what's called the professionalism domain, that healthcare providers have competency in empathy. And they're going to be searching for something out there to bring in so that's just kind of
so you're really seeing, what I'm hearing is you really see the need for this empathy component, and there's going to be a real demand, at least in the healthcare field, for this, and just that very core aspect of empathy. And there's no really good empathy training out there.
Yeah, I mean, the only one that there's only one out there that Helen Reese at Harvard has that company with Empathetics, which is 3 modules. For module 1 is the neuroscience of empathy and some basic, but it really doesn't teach you the skills of empathy. Yeah. And the second one is how to talk to someone when something bad happens. And then the third module, I can't recall what it is, but anyway, but it's still, it doesn't really, in my mind, really focus on the skill development of the cognitive empathy.
That's my experience as well. She gave me a free account to try it out, so I could go through it, and I found the same thing. It's very kind of didactic and experiential, and that's why we're doing this MOOC. I see the same issue that you're talking about, and it's like, how do we design that? You know, and that's what I'm trying to do, is kind of create a process and a, you know, for designing the empathy, and if, you know, if somebody has better ideas, you know, for specific things we can do. So there's so those were some of the aspects that we can, like, what is a project that everyone would like to take on, you know? And the one that Ingrid and I were just talking about is the initial introduction to an empathy circle, how to do an empathy circle. So we have a web page that explains it. We have a one-page Google, not a one-page PDF that kind of explains how to take part in an empathy circle. But we would like to create a slide deck that takes you through the steps, and then convert that slideshow into a video to introduce people into it, and then maybe even make an animated version. So we're going to start meeting an hour before this group to start working on that. So I was just putting out there, is there anything anyone else would like to take on as a specific project? I know you want to introduce students to this and kind of use them as a bit of a testing ground for some of this. And so.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, yeah. So I mean, you know, well, you know, my plan is in May in San Francisco. We would present this course based on Miller's text, Listening Well, and then hopefully by then we will have something well oiled and ready. I mean, I know you. I mean, I've looked on the internet. You've already created so many different manuals and things. I'm really impressed with what you've already gotten so many of those things out there. But this one, I guess, will be specific to addressing developing competencies from the perspective of a physician in training in cognitive empathy.
Okay, so did you want to, like, is there something that you want to, like, is it like starting to create that course for the students? Is that what?
Yeah, so it would be it would be a MOOC. I mean, potentially, that would that down the road. I mean, that any institution that wanted to perhaps utilize this curriculum for the training and of their physicians in cognitive empathy.
Okay, so yeah, we have to maybe talk about the definitions of empathy too. Like I actually used, I think, what do you mean by cognitive empathy and that. But
well, I mean, I'm William Miller, but that's what he's talking. That's what he's talking about, basically, or it's accurate cognitive empathy. That's what William Miller believes that is trainable. That's what can be changed. I mean, we all have certain innate genetic variability and differences in our ability to empathize, but we can all be taught with skill training in how to take how to take on the perspective of another person and then build skills in guessing about the other person's mental states and what kind of thoughts might underlie those mental states and that et cetera.
Okay, well, so I just wanted to get kind of a sense of, I don't know, so Ingrid and I are working on that project. I don't know, Mimi, if there was a project you wanted to take on to work on, like create a lesson, or I can't remember, there was something I just trying to get it sort of, it's trying to manage all the different people and their projects that I'm trying to get a clear sense.
Can I answer?
Yeah, please.
Was a question? Yeah, sure. So I was thinking about two things. We have mentioned this a little bit in the previous sessions. The one is that I want to create some, but not now. I would like you to give me some time. Something will have to do with ESL. I mean, how we can cultivate empathy while we are teaching a second language. Because I never understood why people should just, when they try to learn a second language or the third language, they should just learn the language. But while a language is a means, is a vehicle we can use to communicate. So what better way to practice our ESL skills while discussing a social issue or something else that we feel that really matters to us and we have a say. So this is the one thing, and the other is I would like to design something that would be around a social issue, any kind of this, and how this can activate empathy to the participants. I mean, let's say I'm just brainstorming right now that I use a video or an article or a quote, something that has to do with, let's say, racism, or let's say with financial crisis or refugees, whatever. And I want to offer it to the participants in a way that will make them discuss while cultivating at the same time their empathic listening and you know, something like this. I don't know if you can follow me, but I want to see how socially.
Can I reflect back? What I was hearing is that you'd like to create some lessons, and that the lessons are using an article or a video. They're dealing with social issues. It's sort of a gateway discussion for people studying ESL, and then they can use an empathy circle to dialogue about that. So they're sharing their ideas, someone's reflecting back, and then they're kind of learning English through using this empathic listening process, as well as they're exploring a social issue.
Yeah, this is the first thing. This is about second language. The other I was talking about had to do with people who don't, those who don't try to learn a second language, but they try to approach a social issue and at the same time practice their empathy. I mean, how can I make a discussion even with people who might not agree with my views? How can I practically show that, yes, I'm a person who can practice empathic listening and I have empathy in my life.
Oh, yeah.
And I agree with what Stefan mentioned before, suggested regarding certification, all this, because this is closely connected to the discussion we had last Monday. And I would like us to remember that before designing a certificate, we have to think a little more about how we're going to evaluate the performance of those who participate in the empathic listening groups, as we discussed again last Monday. So, okay, I think that it's important for us to say we have these empathic listening sessions. This might be 5, 10, 20, I don't know how many we see. And when by the 20th session, participants should be able to do this and this 2, 3, 5 things. So by doing this, we give a purpose to our meetings. It's not just a discussion for the sake of discussion, but we have a purpose. And at the end, we can just check that, yes, now I can manage my feelings better when I have to discuss with people who have absolute different views on social issues, for example, or people who have different religion or whatever differences they might have. So these are...
Okay, well, let me reflect then. So I'm hearing that besides the ESL, using social issues in an article or a video, that you also see this just for people to practice their empathy, that you can bring in a video or an article and use that as a gateway just for people to practice their empathy to begin with. And I can see that for what we're doing with the political work is really beneficial. And then there's also the skills part. It's like being able to list the specific skills and then have ways of testing and evaluating each of those skills. And so it sounds like that's the area that you want to sort of work on. And so you could actually create a lesson, like create an initial one meeting lesson that brings in a political topic as in an article in video, and create a sample prototype of that. And then we could test that in a later meeting or in a different group or something.
Yes, what I'm thinking is that I choose a theme, a topic, and this might be in the form of a video, and I want to connect it to something we found in the book we prepare for our sessions, and I want also to set some particular goals for this lesson and see how people can connect the theory found in the book with a practical issue that they might face in their everyday life. Because what Stefan said before about various institutions that try to cultivate empathy and they promise that they're gonna give a certificate, blah blah blah. It's true. I have looked for that because I'm very interested in this. And what we do is very important because we try to practice skills. We don't try to just develop long papers and add bibliography and talk about empathy, but we try to practice empathy, even if this skill is empathic listening by now, and we'll see how it goes. But I think that we should have a clear purpose and define the skills, the sub-skills we should develop by the end of our sessions.
Okay.
Of all
So
the circle.
Yeah, so you want to define the skills and make it, instead of just talking about it, actually doing it. And so you'll be working on creating like a prototype lesson around that. So, okay, good. I got you down for that. You're on the list here. So that's helped with my clarity, kind of knowing. And and then Ingrid and I will start working on those lessons on the how to do an empathy circle and making it a really, simple and easy video introduction. And then Stefan is working on creating this course for the students and sort of creating like some prototypes that we can design. And then we're going to try to merge this into a specific lessons that we can in training.
May I say something?
Yeah,
just
please.
as a resource, there's this wonderful website called Film English for Dimitri, where they show these various films and they develop lessons around these films for ESL folks to teach them empathy.
I'm aware of that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes,
cool.
You're right. It's very good. Yes, you're right. There is a number of these websites, and I know. Thank you very much. Yes, we always have to find interesting things to keep people engaged and to help them enjoy what they do. And can I add something else here? I just, this, probably you know him better than I do, this TV show on CNN titled United Shades of America by Kamal Bell.
Oh,
I just heard about that.
Okay, I really like this guy. So whenever I have the chance, I watch a few of the episodes. So one of them was on Sikhism.
Yes,
the people
I watched it. Yes,
I saw that.
Wonderful.
Okay. Wonderful. Actually, I didn't know. You know that my first bachelor is in religion, but we didn't study Sikhism that extensively. However, I have a very deep interest in the religion of different religions, and what really I like the episode so much because people talked about why they have their head covered and how this is connected to empathy and compassion. What? I was shocked in a positive way. I didn't know that. So I would love to do something that could have to do with empathy and in different religions, how people coming from different religions understand empathy. And if I'm not wrong, I think that one of the participants in your group said when he's sick, I think I've seen a person with his head covered. Is it valid?
No,
No.
not, no.
I
But
have been
before
friends
we
with
can't get too
someone.
far, I wanted to get into our empathic listening process. So this is good to talk about in our using empathic listening. Before we step into that, I just want to get any comments from Ingrid about the sort of an idea. You've been a little quiet here, so I want to be sure you get a chance to speak about the introductory video, and just any comments, thoughts about that. Then after that, we'll go right into about an hour of empathic listening.
Not so much about that, but I agree 100% with Stefan about getting some competencies written, and which is very similar to what Dimitra was saying with skills. They're very much related, because if we can write down what competencies, what we want people to be competent in, then that guides the training. And that's kind of your framework, and you stay to that. It keeps you from getting sidetracked and doing things that you shouldn't be doing. And I just looked at my phone a little bit. I mean, I did a Google search on empathy competencies, and a few things did come up. But so anyway, I think that is something that's needed.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is a list of the competencies or skills, right? And what if we created a Google Doc and everybody just started listing the competencies, and we create a shared doc of what we're seeing as the competencies that need to,
I think that'd be good.
So I'll create that and send the link to everyone. And then you can just start, when you do those searches, everyone will it'll be one project, everyone just starts adding, and hopefully that will take shape, and other groups, and we can get a really clear list of the competencies and specific skills. So does that sound, I got a thumbs up on that? Everybody good? Thumbs up? Stefan, I can't see your thumb, but I see your head. Okay, so I wanted,